Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going way back in time with a really captivating memoir excerpt. It's about life in the South Bronx, in the mid-20th century. A real coming-of-age story, but it also makes you think about, memory and friendship, the paths we choose in life.
Yeah, the thing that really stood out to me was how the narrator, he just keeps coming back to this idea of reuniting with his mother in the afterlife.
Hmm.
It's like he needs to share his story with her, almost to I don't know, make sense of this crazy journey his life has taken.
So true. So to understand that journey, we got to go back to where it all began. The way he describes his childhood neighborhood just brings it to life. The sounds, those bustling streets, the rumble of the L. It's like stepping into a time capsule, a community that's vanished but still lives on in his memory.
He uses these incredibly vivid sensory details, like you can almost picture that diner he talks about, the one with the blue and white tiled walls,
Yeah.
the warmth of the place and that girl behind the counter, with the smile that just lights up the room.
It's those little details, right, that really make his story come alive. And in this setting, this vibrant community, we meet his close group of friends, Cliffy, Bruce, and Petey. I mean, they were more than just friends, right? More like his family. They were his support system in a world that could be pretty unpredictable.
Definitely. That sense of camaraderie is so strong. He talks about their rooftop hangouts, like finding freedom above those city streets, and even getting in trouble. Like, remember that water balloon incident? Even their close calls with the police become these bonding experiences. It's like they were rebels, testing the limits, creating their own adventures in a world that didn't offer many.
Yeah, their youthful energy was like this way of escaping, but also pushing back against the limitations around them. And then there's this moment, this turning point that reveals his independent spirit. He tells this story about a fruit store owner, right, who draws him a map. And it symbolizes these two different paths in life.
And it's fascinating because he chooses the less conventional path, the one outside of his comfort zone, turns down a steady job at the fruit store, decides to forge his own way. It's a decision that says so much about his belief in himself. Like, he refused to settle for a life that didn't, resonate with his aspirations.
And those aspirations were rooted in his passion for acting. Even as a teenager, he's captivated by the power of performance. Talks about working as an usher at different theaters, even at Carnegie Hall. It's like those jobs weren't just about the money. They were about immersing himself in that world he longed to be a part of.
Yeah, he's like a sponge, absorbing everything around him, learning from every experience. Like when he talks about watching The Red Shoes over and over while working at that 34th Street East movie theater, you can just sense how those experiences fueled his passion, his drive to create something meaningful and lasting.
And, he's open about his setbacks, too, like getting fired from Carnegie Hall, basically for rebelling against assigned seating. And he even jokes about it, like questioning the whole system. He's always challenging conventions, poking fun at authority, even in the most unexpected moments.
There's this defiant streak in him, maybe from growing up navigating the streets of the South Bronx. And it fuels his ambitions. Like he talks about walking the city at night, practicing monologues from Shakespeare and O'Neill, using the city as his stage, not waiting for permission, just creating his own opportunities, embracing that unconventional path.
And that determination, that refusal to be held back, it feels connected to what happened to his friends. Bruce, Petey, Cliffy, they all struggled with drug addiction, a really harsh reality that hangs over his memories. He talks about going to Bruce's funeral, and a stranger gives this eulogy that reveals a whole new side to his friend.
It's heartbreaking, a reminder that we only see fragments of people's lives. Makes you wonder if his drive, pursuing his dreams, was partly fueled by needing to escape the same fate as his friends.
And then he shares these two poems by Charlie, John is Dead and When I Die. They're more than just poems, They're like capturing the raw emotion of that time, that place, the sense of loss, the threat of addiction, the resilience of this generation dealing with limited opportunities.
Those poems give a voice to a community that's often overlooked. They highlight how important personal stories are for understanding history, for capturing the impact of those social and economic forces that shape lives.
Right, but amidst the hardship and loss, there's this strong sense of community, a support system that helped him through those tough years. He talks about his mother's presence, calling him home for dinner from the tenement rooftop, like a beacon of love and stability in a world that felt chaotic.
That image, his mother calling him home, it's so powerful. It speaks to how important those core relationships are, the people who give us a sense of belonging, even when things are tough. Makes you wonder if that connection with his mother, that anchor in his life, helped him break free from the cycle that traps so many of his friends.
It's interesting. He wrestles with this question of luck versus agency, you know. He sees the role of chance encounters, good fortune, but also highlights those moments where he made choices, decisions that led him to a different future.
And it's in those choices, those acts of defiance and determination, that his character shines through. He's not just a product of his environment. He's actively shaping his destiny, even if he didn't fully realize it at the time. It's almost like all those early jobs, the ones that seem like dead ends, they were actually, like stepping stones, giving him this unique view into the world he was trying to break into.
He even talks about working as an usher at Carnegie Hall, rubbing shoulders with the elite, but also seeing how this grand institution worked behind the scenes.
And you get the sense that he wasn't just observing, right? He was absorbing, like taking mental notes, filing away all these experiences for later.
He had that hustler mentality, didn't he? Always working, learning, looking for the next opportunity.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that hustle that leads him to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There's this amazing moment in the memoir where he talks about visiting Elizabeth Taylor at her like opulent home, a world away from those tenement rooftops. But he doesn't even flinch.
He even jokes about her asking him to take off his bandana during dinner. His response is classic. When you take off that big shiny rock you got on one of your digits, it's blinding me. Clearly, he wasn't intimidated by wealth or celebrity.
Oh, I love that anecdote.
Yeah.
It shows how he could connect with people from all walks of life. He's comfortable in his own skin, no matter who he's with,
Yeah.
being out with his friends back in the Bronx or having dinner with a Hollywood icon.
And Elizabeth Taylor, she definitely saw something in him. He mentions that a friend ran into her later and asked about him, and her response is so telling. Is he okay? He said he needed to get someone to help him out. And when the friend assures her that he does have help, she says, good, because that boy needs all the help he can get.
That is such a heartwarming moment. You can tell she genuinely cared about him.
Yeah, it makes you realize that beyond all the glitz and glamour, there was a real human connection there, a shared understanding that went deeper than their backgrounds.
It might even say something about the human experience, No matter where life takes us, how much success we find, we all still carry those early experiences, those relationships that shaped us.
Absolutely. And for this narrator, those experiences are rooted in the South Bronx. Even after he finds success, he never forgets where he came from.
You get this sense of nostalgia, but also respect for the community that shaped him. It's not just a place he left behind, it's a part of who he is.
Toward the end of the excerpt, his focus shifts to his infant son, Roman. Such a powerful image, innocence set against his own tough upbringing.
There's a sense of wonder there, almost disbelief as he watches his son's innocence, like marveling at the path that led him to fatherhood.
He describes this almost mystical conversation he has with his 4-month-old son. The baby's babbling, not forming words yet, but he imagines his son saying, Dad, there's this place I've been, and it's great. It's where you're going to go soon, and you'll see how great it is. I can't talk yet, but I just wanted to tell you, because soon I'll learn words and forget.
That's both beautiful and heartbreaking, right? The idea that his son has these memories from a place he's forgotten.
It speaks to how fleeting childhood is, how those early memories fade as we get older, replaced by new experiences.
And yet, even if we can't remember them clearly, those early memories still shape us.
Which brings us back to the narrator's desire to reunite with his mother in the afterlife. It's like he's trying to find those lost memories, to reconnect with a part of himself that feels both far away and essential.
It's a powerful testament to love's enduring power, the way those core relationships keep influencing us long after they're gone.
He seems to find comfort in the belief that there's something more beyond this life, a place where he can finally share his story with his mother, where those lost memories can be recovered and cherished.
It reminds us that our lives aren't just straight lines, but more like a tapestry of experiences, relationships, and memories that make us who we are.
And for him, those threads lead back to the South Bronx, the place that shaped him and continues to stay with him.
He acknowledges that his life has been so incredible, most people wouldn't believe it, even if it was a movie.
A real moonshot, he calls it.
But with all the amazing turns his life has taken, it's the small details that seem to matter most.
The warmth of that diner, the smile of the girl behind the counter, the sound of his mother calling him home.
It's those sensory experiences, right? The little everyday moments. They seem to hold the most weight, the most emotion.
He even says, I don't need old buildings or objects to put me in touch with them. Like, those memories are part of his senses, instantly taking him back.
What's really interesting about this memoir is that it reminds us that history isn't just about dates and big events. It's about the lives of everyday people.
Their stories, their struggles, how they overcome things.
Exactly. And this story, this man's story, it gives us a glimpse into a time and place that's often misunderstood. The South Bronx, mid-20th century, a community dealing with so many challenges, but also so full of life, creativity, and resilience.
And we see it all through his eyes, right? We feel those streaks, understand the forces that shaped his life and a whole generation.
His journey reminds us that even when facing things like poverty and addiction, loss, the human spirit can still find connection, purpose.
It's a story about survival, about the choices we make, the power of friendship, family, and the memories that shape who we are.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible memoir, we want to leave you with a question.
Think about your own childhood. What are some of your most vivid memories? Those small moments, the way things felt, smelled, sounded, the emotions that have stayed with you.
Maybe, like the narrator, you'll find that those little details, those seemingly insignificant things, are actually the most meaningful. The things that can take you back to a time and place that's both familiar and gone.
Because those personal stories, those threads of memory, they